Okay, and welcome back. I know it's been a couple of days. I skipped a couple of days just because things got on top of me. Time. You don't need excuses. All you need is for me to start drawing. Um, what's my? Oops. That's about right. Pick a colour. So this is, I believe, Perry or Pez. This is the. You can see their face in the background here. This is another friend of mine called Harry. They recently got for their birthday, I think, a pair of guinea pigs, and they called them Kevin and Perry Go Small after the film Kevin and Perry Go Large. It's a very funny pun if you're of the right generation. So this is, I think, is Perry or Pez. Not much structure in this one. It's kind of... Actually, I wonder if I can... Is there any way that I can bring out a little bit more contrast in the curves of this image? Let's actually select the layer that we're doing. There we go. That brings out a little bit more shape actually. If I just sort of brighten it up and increase the contrast a little. Maybe not too much. There we go. Okay, that actually improves things a lot. Obviously, this is going to take a lot of fur drawing in this image. Structurally, let's get to a drawing layer. Structurally, I mean, so there's there seems to be a cheek here. There's an ear here, clearly, and one here. Now that would hint that the head shape is kind of like that, with the cheek there, and this is sort of nose. You can sort of make out a nosy thing looking there. Like this. That's fluff, that's an ear. I've done it again, this is why I'm not... Honestly, call myself a professional. I don't call myself a professional at all. Got my display settings on a scaling mode, so... There we go. That should be more accurate now. Yep, that is more accurate now. I don't know why it changes stuff so much in the... When I change display mode, everything goes fuck up. Well, see what those bits... Why are they even visible? What layer are they on? Screw it, we'll delete the layer. Just there we go. So now we're back on top, back in charge. As I was saying, we have the ear here. Let's get that right. The face shape is clearly sort of this, which sort of suggests a head kind of there, with the nose part there. Although it literally is just like that, isn't it? Maybe the best thing I can do with this is just try and capture the outer shape, sort of potato shape, and then work into it for where the feet go, where the fur goes, and just add the paws on and see what I can make of it. I think the most important part is going to be getting the eye right, because there's kind of an outer eye shape like this, and then there's the inner eye, and I think getting that right is going to be the key to this, key to making it actually look like a guinea pig. So structurally we're talking that followed by that part down to here. And is that kind of like that, I think? You can't really make it out because all the fur comes down this way, so it's almost like it just sort of goes in there. Down to there, chest comes down there obviously. Ear, ear. So the hardest part to get right is going to be essentially this shape. Now I kind of notice that this is sort of almost like a sort of like it's a parallelogram. This whole thing is a parallelogram, kind of. Well, it's the back half is. Let's see what we can do. Let's just start scratching at it and see what happens. Right. So, if we say this thing's got to be sort of potato shaped, it comes down here and like that. No. The head is, I mean, the head is marginally higher than the arse, but not much. So really, what we want is we have the kind of the backside shape like that, and then that comes in, and we have a sort of a bump here, because the difference between that is not going to be huge, and then that comes down to there. I don't know, how do you proportion a thing like this? Well, actually the head and that are roughly the same size. And the centre of the head does line up to where the knee is. So maybe that's... Maybe this is the key to it all. We start with a head. And then we get line across from there, line down from there, which gives us an arse. Distance between them roughly the same again. We've got three head widths, so that's too large. So we want... I seem to have opened like a little side window there, and I don't know how I've done it. You can't see it, but it's on the other screen. Nope, too far apart. Let's grid this out. So we know for my dog's here. Hang on, going back to this. So we know that that's going to be 1, 2, 3 there. We know that that's going to be 1, 2, 3. So essentially what this is a 3x3 grid, but where one of them is twice the height of the other. This guinea pig is twice as long as it is wide. That actually helps us figure this out. Because if it's twice as long as it is wide, then we know that we can split that 3 ways that way. We can split this 3 ways this way. And that gives us essentially our 2 circles. See that? All geometry. That's how it all works. And then, actually thinking about it, that if we do the head part that lines up with the arse, that gives us a perfect, like that. That is guinea pig shape. That is the shape of a guinea pig. So then, kind of the head is facing almost completely sideways, but not quite. It's sort of that's like the centre line of the sphere of the head, because then it goes out. So this kind of comes out to here. We have the nose intruding upon the edge of that there. And the eye is kind of up around here, roughly the same size as the nose. And from the eye, of course, we have this cheek line like that. So the eye comes down like so. Comes to a point there, round there. Yeah. And then this basically just comes straight down to here, but we lose it because here the foot comes out. The foot stretches actually not much further than this, than the centre line. Like it doesn't even reach the centre line. So that's too big. It's more like this sort of size. So the first claw is here. that, and the second claw sort of starts from that line there, and then there's one here. So this essentially is the structure of where this guinea pig exists in this space. Yeah, that goes all the way back to there. So this actually goes further back. That goes to there. This comes to here, and that there is a guinea pig. I'm trying to make my pencil lines a bit more sketchy at this point, because I need to be able to construct these things faster rather than try and get one perfect line. So what I'm trying to do is do more scratching at this point, at this stage, so that I can move more quickly onto. So what is the structure of that ear? Let me just hide that briefly. So this ear, it starts just behind the eye, and it's kind of a two ripple thing. And it's light on the top, it's dark underneath. Like that part is dark. That's the ear. And that's directly above the eye. So this should be directly above the eye here. This one starts just behind the eye. And it's a big wave and then a little wave. Like that. And a space under it. Okay. So that is what we're going to work on before we do any of the line work. That is our structure. We've done this in, I think, record time. So now it's time for actual lines of the thing itself. Let's start with the eye, since that was the most important part. Now for the eye, I want to do the inner part first and then do the outline, because we're going to leave a grey section there, and I'm going to figure out how to fill that in afterwards. So I keep forgetting it changes the tool when I use that. The most important part is the actual centre of the eye, which has, let's get the lighting right on this as well. It has a sort of a shine there and a smaller one just down there. Let's zoom in a bit for that. In fact, let's just take that out a little. This comes in here. Right. Now the nose, if we look at how the nose kind of, it's almost hidden by the sort of the darkness of the fur, but there is a nose shape just there. Oh. The nose is just there and it sort of joins in. So for this, the nose should come down like that and then up to there. Yeah. And then this part comes down here. I'm going to try and get some of this furriness into it with the outline. And this comes down to here. I don't know why I'm not using the reference image that I've got on the other screen, so I don't have to keep flipping back and forth to it. Because I have a reference on my other screen that I can look at. There we go. So, back on this image, there's a little bit of fluff just sticking out there. We'll fill that in later. Now these claws, we sort of see a line come all the way, like a single curve like that, and there's a claw there in front, and this kind of comes back up a little bit and then goes out a bit to there. Yeah, that's about right. Because you can actually make out where these claws turn back into feet on the actual image. Now you can't see a third one, but I feel like you ought to be able to see a third one, so I'm just going to add a hint of it there. In fact, what I'm going to do is take that line out and just add the third claw as the edge of the foot. There we go. Yes. We have a similar thing going on with this claw, where it kind of goes down and then to a point, and this one is just under it. It goes down to a point, a bit more. Yeah, there we go. And then we have a third one sort of down here, and each of these you can sort of see them coming back in. See that? I'm going to leave that one for a second there actually. This one has the underside of a point, and then from there there's quite a large amount of toe. Well, this one comes to a point, and there's a little bit of toe. Yeah. This one comes to here, and then sort of gets taken over with the rest of the paw. Like that. In fact, I'm tempted to bring that line in over here, so that's kind of how it sits. I'm going to mark on a line here because that's a fur line. There's kind of a thing there, and this, yeah, and then we have another paw just over here under the chin. I've noticed that I've got this chin a little bit too, like it should. Let me just get rid of this line actually, because this chin should work a little bit differently. Clean that up in a second. This chin, what it should do is come back down to our normal line thickness. What is our normal line thickness? Have we been doing 20? Yeah, about 20. Wonder all those scratches. So where this cheek comes down here, it sort of curves back around to here, and this part, it comes in and goes down, and that, yeah, it sort of comes in, goes down, and then inward to there. It's only subtle, but it does kind of alter the shape of this foot and how it relates to the eye. Just looking at the image, there's another little bit of character that I want to capture here, because Pez has a little sort of furry thing that sticks up just before the ear. Sort of there. Yeah. So this toe, this kind of just from where this sticks out, this kind of sort of furs out a bit there as well actually. That'll all get filled in. Because the underside of the foot, and that actually comes down like that. Because the underside of this foot is quite plain. It comes in just like that. Just like that. Do a little tiny claw there. And then beside that we have another little claw that comes into a toe, but then the top half of this goes like huge, like that, and then we have just another little claw just there. Looks wrong. Why does it look wrong? I think that I did that one too large, and this one, there we go, that's more like it. Is that too far forward? Is that whole thing too far forward? I think it is. I think that this front claw should actually kind of almost end in this. That's where it should go. And that comes to there. You see, the trouble is that this claw does kind of just disappear behind the fur. So what it needs is for that to be a very, very narrow part of the claw. There we go, that's more like it. That is a lot more like it. The ears, it's a very thin shape that sort of kind of comes into there. Like that. And this one is literally just like a sort of like that. This has a kind of underside to it as well. Right. So we know that we want to carry a little bit of this eye with a kind of a dark line that comes in here. No. Okay. I just altered the shape of my brush, didn't I, when I pressed the wrong button? So this part kind of comes down to here. And then we have a super light part, but above and below it there's kind of almost like a kind of a pale ring. Now that's going to look very weird when I come to fill this in, but then what I'm going to do is try and stipple it out a bit and it'll make perfect sense. Perfect sense. You heard it here first. So in terms of darkness, this part under the ear here is completely dark. In fact, actually, let's take a little step back here. Because what I want to do at this point is add a new layer. See, if I take away that, we kind of have the shape of the guinea pig. If I zoom out one, this is the shape of the guinea pig. Now at this point that looks awful. In fact, that looks so awful I'm going to take out one element of it. I'm going to take out this cheek. Kind of loses a bit of character, but I think I'm going to win it back. Just gonna fill this line in. Actually, this whole bit there is garbage. I'm gonna just redo that. So this part here, I've got to reconnect to that line now, haven't I? This part here comes down to a sort of a little fluffy thing here. Oh, I've got a call. Hello?
I guess you haven't seen my messages then.
No, so I'm just doing some art. What's up?
Oh, if you're doing your art, then do your art.
Well, what's up? Do you need something?
Well, see the messages.
Oh, okay.
If you're in the middle, I don't want to disturb you.
Well, I can pause it. I'm probably going to cut this bit out now, but hang on a second. Let me just pause my recording. I'm back. Oh, had a biscuit while I was downstairs. Give me time to regroup and think about how I'm going to do this. Why am I holding control? There we go. So, in terms of the shape of the guinea pig, I think I've got it about right. What I need to do is separate this out into areas of dark and light. Now, I've been told that the best way to do this is to sort of squint at the image, blur your eye up, and try and see contours. So the contours I'm seeing, let's take, oh, there we go, the contours. Can I just erase all of that? Get rid of the ear. There. The contour between dark and light is this cheek here is kind of a light area. There's kind of that is a light area. And there's a little light area here. Maybe a bit here. Here and here. So this is the lightest area. So what I want to do is basically completely black out any areas that aren't completely black. So completely black out the areas that are completely black, and then blend the other areas into them. So we know the toes are completely white. Think about it that way. If I zoom in here a little bit, we know that there's kind of a line there. Whoop. Let's go back to our black pen. We know there's kind of a line there where that becomes completely dark. This is there, and that one is kind of entirely darkened, so that's why we can't see it. Is this, what layer are we drawing on here? We're drawing on the wrong layer. I want to do the coloration on a different layer. So yeah, if we switch up to this layer now, the theory is if I do this on a different layer, it'll be a lot easier to undo if I mess something up. So for this one, the claw itself is kind of the outline of the dark area. For this one, it's higher up. There's kind of a and this one's entirely dark. And in terms of the light planes, if I come back to this layer, in terms of the light planes, whoops. So we have a clear area of light there, kind of comes up to that, like so. Actually, no, that kind of, it does that, but then that disappears into that. It kind of comes up there a bit. And there's a light area there. So yeah, that's that dark area here. You can't really make out where that leg is. There's a super dark area here, and there's sort of a slightly lightened part that comes out of there. For this, we darken right in around this to here. I'm just going to increase the brush size for this part, because we're trying to do really broad strokes. So all of this is dark. All of that is dark. That part. Coming up to here, there's kind of a swish. Up to here, there's a little sort of darkened swish. That gets cut off there. There is kind of that. All of that is dark. And then we have a slightly lighter area under the ear, just a touch lighter under the ear. Cross over the ear, that's all dark. This is all dark. Around the cheek there is a lightish area. This is all dark. Little fluffy bit of light there. And then the rest of this is kind of, there's a sort of dark part here. Yeah, on this side of the V, but it goes to a section there. Now this probably just looks like absolute raw noise at this point, but when I'm done it won't. Because this is just here as a kind of a hint. This is a hint for me to figure the rest of this out. All of this is dark. This area here that goes down into this V, down into that part, up to there, up to under the ear. All this is dark. Right. So now you're thinking, this is nonsense. This makes no like physical sense whatsoever as a coloration pattern of a guinea pig. And in that sense you would be correct. But you'd also be wrong, because I'm going to turn this into beautiful art. That part there is kind of greyish. This is arguably the lightest part. That is a greyish V. That is grey. Grey fluff there. Kind of a grey arc on the nose, and then this section here is a bit lighter. This section here is a bit lighter, as is this section here. Actually, that part there is quite light. Okay. Now watch this. What I'm going to do, go back to a black pen. Now I'm going to fill in the majority of this section that I think should be completely black. I'm going to avoid going too near the edges because this is quite a large brush. I'll leave myself an area around the eyes. Actually, I'm not going to go anywhere near the eyes for now because that's going to be covered by that patch. But all this is going to be dark. There we go. Area above the ear completely dark. Area below the ear kind of lightens up a bit, but the area in here is completely dark again. Right. But around this side of the eye, totally dark until we hit this patch. There's darkness here. That comes in and is dark. I know it looks crazy, but just hang with me on this one. I've got a theory. A hypothesis, we'll call it. It's a hypothesis on how to do good-looking fur shading. I'm doing it in black and white because this is a black guinea pig. But hopefully I think this will apply just as well to colour images. All this comes over to here, like so. See, I was looking at the little examination of how to draw stripes that I did the other day. This area here, we come down to there. Let's do that with lines later. Yeah. And we have this little section up here which comes down into the bum, which is completely dark. If this works, this would be like an art miracle on my part. If this, I know that doesn't sound like I'm giving it much hope of working, saying it's going to be a miracle if it works, but what I mean is I think it will work and it will look miraculous when it does. There is actually a light edge which comes up there, which I'm going to leave on there and kind of patch in later. It's just sort of there-ish. Follows that top curve of that. The V goes up to there. This actually should come out here. That's more like that. This area under here is dark. All this is dark. There's maybe another little patch there. Right. This is now just about all the largest areas filled in. Now, don't look at me like a lunatic. This is going to blow your mind. Let's get my pen size back down to a nice level. So, here we have little fur streaks that come in at the top of this. And they come along this shape. And this adds kind of a volume to what we're drawing. There are these dark parts that stick out here. They're kind of behind it, so I'm going to come around here and add these in. But this down here, this up here, this is all going to follow the shape into here. I'm going to keep drawing these little etches until you can't quite make out where the hard edge is. See what I'm doing? So we have some coming up this way as well. What this does is it hides any kind of like visual confirmation of where the light part is, where the dark part is. Same here. Because this gives a kind of contour almost to it. Actually, this part is completely dark. I don't know why I did that way. That part is totally dark. Oh, except... hang on. I'm looking at the wrong bit of this. That cuts off there, and there is some shape like this on that part, and some shape like this on this part. Where two differing directions of fur meet. And down here there is essentially a dark section underneath. And we have lines that contour back up into this curvature. Now these strokes, these aren't really meant to shade so much as they're meant to delineate the edges of the completely dark sections. So these ones are just there to kind of hide those light planes that I added in. They're not really planes. See, normally you would do this kind of thing with light planes. You would look at it as a 3D shape, but this is almost like a sort of a warp and a weft within the fur texture itself. So this here is all up in this direction, which heads towards that peak. Thinking about it, this would be a lot easier if I did a kind of hiding the edge first and then worked in from that. There we go. So if I, rather than doing the whole thing as individual strokes initially, we hide the edges this way. There we go. Oh, it's starting to hurt my hand a bit actually. I'm not sure this is the healthiest way to do this. There's probably a filter which would do it just as well and in half the time. Right, so around the eye there is a kind of a darker area. Sort of comes. Oh, I never want it to touch. You know what? This probably be a lot easier if I zoomed in for it. Let's go down to this layer and just take that out a bit, smooth that off. Go back up to the light layer. For this we need to get very carefully in here. And this way kind of. That's about right. Yeah. So this leads straight down into this area of cheek, which again has a we've done it round, but it has a shape to it, which is it's sort of if we fill in all of that. around there. There we go. Let's get all of that filled in. Beginning to wonder at this point if it would have been easier to just go straight in with the dark and then try and add areas of light to it afterwards. So there is a kind of a dark area that pulls into there. And this kind of sort of goes in up here. Again, it adds shape to it, like that. And then here there's a very, almost a clean looking part there where it sort of closes in a bit. We want to get these strokes down from here without intruding on the eye. You watch, I'll zoom out and this will look absolutely bloody awful. I'll allow it. I love little fluffy animals like this. I think they're incredibly cute. I'd love to have one, but I've got a dog, so she's my little fluffy animal. I need to darken this off a bit because it's looking too light at the moment. It needs more lines in it. Any bright areas like this, I need to sort of break them down, break them up a bit. I think maybe I need to just sort of attempt this on more simplistic shapes, like attempting to do this with the warp and the weft of the hair of a guinea pig is quite complicated. I think maybe if I could do this level of shading on just like a furry sphere, which arguably is what a guinea pig is, but this is like a long-haired guinea pig. If I could do it on a shorter haired guinea pig, it'd probably be a lot better. So this kind of comes in like this and out, indeed like that, to match. And in here. I'm going to end up colouring this whole area completely black, aren't I? So let's get the ear next, because the ear has got quite a clear fur direction to it, which is this way. And also it's quite dark in and of itself, so it's not like it has to... Or is it? You know, actually, I've kind of done this the wrong way, because the dark part of the ear kind of has short shadow lines. This part is also dark, and there are bits of fur leading up to it. That ear, if you look at this one, you can see that ear is kind of buried into the fur here. So let's mimic that a little bit. Right. This probably sounds awful if you listen back to it. It's just tap, 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 tap. I've never actually watched one of my own art streams. Like, how terrible is that? That I'm expecting other people to sit through this, but I personally cannot do it. The trick to this is to use heavier strokes initially, because the heavier strokes fill more space than the little ones. And therefore they take less taps of the brush tip to do. This is like me doing the Bob Ross beating the hell out of it thing. I'm just going back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. There we go. Oh, you know, that actually fills it in. If I just do a very light line there, that kind of does the trick. So the tops of the ears, I'm going to leave till last because they're stippled. And you know how long stippling takes. Okay, so I feel like this whole bit should be almost entirely filled in, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it the rough way first. Fill almost the entire thing. Then do a few cross lines here so it looks as if, and then just add the tips. Because this whole bit kind of has sticky out hairs. See that there's a real downside to being simultaneously quite bad at something and also a perfectionist, because it means that you want to do really well, but you physically can't. You physically can't do any better than what you're doing. And so you just keep wanting to go over and add more detail or change a bit here or there. And you know you can't. You can't do it. It's just not possible. Add some bits here. There we go. There's a few sneaky parts on the nose. Oh yeah, we've still got to do all this part, haven't we? So this bit under here, this kind of gets fluffy. Very slowly just builds up to a kind of a hairy part, which then comes down over here and sort of covers all of that. And that's fine. But this sort of then gives us a kind of a hairy belly all the way down to here, where it comes in and sort of disappears behind that paw actually. And then here, most of that's filled in. We have a dark section under here which kind of comes up. On this side of the V we have mostly, like that is mostly filled there. Mostly filled here. Yeah, that's all I'm doing. If you see it there, that's all I'm doing to cover this part. Then we have kind of a darker area here, which pulls up into it. And this section sort of comes down into here. And this is also mostly dark, but it sort of lightens up a bit there. I think this is the main lesson I've learned today, is if you've got a large area to shade, fill in block detail first and then go in with the fur. Tomorrow, assuming I can draw tomorrow, will be the last sort of I tried to say realistic, the last attempt at a realistic animal, and it's going to be my friend McGee's dog that also has a lot of black and white fur and a lot of shading, but hopefully I'm going to do it in a slightly less light based style than this, so it's not like I'm trying to capture the exact lighting on the body of it, because it's a blue merle. If you know what that means, then you'll immediately understand why this kind of black and white shading would work a lot better on a blue merle than it will on a completely black animal. It's not actually blue, I should say that. It's not actually a blue dog. A blue merle is a kind of coloration where it's a sort of it's a grey, but it's a grey that's formed as an interaction of light and dark individual hairs. So it's not like the hairs themselves are grey. I mean, maybe some of them are. But for the most part, the coloration comes from a combination of white hairs and dark hairs that overlap. Kind of like cigarette ash. You know, if you have a lot of time and no life, you can actually take cigarette ash and you can split it down into individual particles. And you can see that some of them are light and some of them are dark. And if you smush them together, then obviously they go completely dark. But anything that you burn will create multiple colours of ash. Multiple shades, I should say, because it's mostly like shades of grey. But there's actually a company that can, when a person is cremated, they will take the ash, they will filter it and sort it into different colours, and they will then use those to create a black and white portrait of the person whose ashes it is, using the pigments that were rescued from the burnt corpse. Bit macabre, but you know what? It's not quite as cool as the company that makes them into gemstones, but there's no real art lesson to be learned from that. Okay. Doing pretty well. What else do we need? This area here is not dark enough. This area here is also still feels a little bit too light. I'm gonna do the light shading that I was doing elsewhere to try and bring that down, where you can just kind of add lines into. Because I have this pressure sensitive pen, I may as well use it. To do really light lines where I need them. But yeah, after the last realistic animal, I'm going to then continue on to do what I am referring to as Disney-fied animals, as in cartoony animals. They're still going to just be animals. I'm not going to do the full furry just yet. The theory is that if I go through 3 steps, I can teach myself to draw furry art without copying the style of another furry artist. Although by the end, I may end up doing that just in order to produce something usable. Just not copying, but just trying to use it as a reference to see how other people have approached the problem of doing furry art. Because my 3-step approach is 1, learn to draw realistic animals. 2, attempt to stylize said realistic animals. And then 3, try and mix said stylized animals with anthropomorphic proportions. Right. Okay, let's turn off the dynamics. I think we can do a little smaller than that. So this is normally used for shading. I'm just using it to do a sort of a grey scale. So I'm looking for a uniform colour really, because there isn't really that much shade on the ear. If anything, it gets a little darker near the top. Just as it tilts away from the light source, because it's kind of specularity for the ray tracing aficionados, the lighting experts in the audience. This kind of blends in with the bottom of the ear quite a lot more. I think that's about done actually. I think that's kind of where we want to be. Anything else? There's a little... There's a little oh, hang on, dynamic's back on. And we'll get the brush size back up to what it was. There's a sort of a dark part to that connects back up to there. See, I think that the trick to drawing a person's and like an animal that belongs to a person that you know is to try and not just capture like the photo of it, but if it has any obvious colorations, any obvious unusual stripes, any that still looks too light. Like I don't know. I feel like if it has any obvious markings, like a particular toe that's a different colour, or there's a big fluff that goes up there, isn't there? And it's sort of fluffy along the bottom. Like those are the things to capture, because those are the things that will make someone go, "Oh my god, that's my guinea pig," because my guinea pig has that, and no other guinea pig has that marking, that shade, that shape. I mean, they do. You know, there's only so many patterns that of fur that a guinea pig can have. But if you can like get one or two things like, oh, that guinea pig's got that white bit of toe and that dark bit of toe like mine has, then it's sort of, you know, it makes it seem more like that person's guinea pig. That's what I think anyway. And since it's my video, I get to basically pretend that I'm right. Done. I'm calling that a day. That is Pez. Pez is drawn. Long live Pez. Yeah. Guinea pig. Let me just take off the pen. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. I'm liking that. I'm liking that. But not quite done. Not quite done. Because Pez has a really shiny part there. And where we've shaded it around, it needs to reflect that fact. No. No. This is probably gilding the lily, but there is a bit of shade just here. There we go. That is Pez.
Oh.
Done.